Hey, what's up everyone? This is MusicTechHelpGuy and welcome to part 53 of my ultimate guide to Logic Pro. In this video, I'll show you all the ins and outs of using the Chord Trigger MIDI FX plugin in Logic. The Chord Trigger is a really helpful tool because it allows you to transform a single note into a full chord. You can use presets to get started, or you can build your own custom chord triggers and save them as presets. Before I get into the tutorial, I want to quickly tell you about the sponsor of this video, Boombox. If you're a music maker, a producer, or a mixing engineer, and you're sick of digging through emails for production notes and feedback, you've got to check out boombox.io. Boombox allows you to upload full mixes, stems, or multi-tracks, invite bandmates, collaborators, or clients to the project where they can leave time-stamped feedback on the tracks. And if you're working with clients and you want to keep them from downloading the tracks until they've paid their bill, you can do that too. If you want to check it out for yourself, head over to boombox.io and sign up for a free account today to get 4 GB of free storage. Okay, so first let me show you a quick practical example of what the chord trigger can do. You can see up here at the top, this top input keyboard is showing that I have chord triggers on 5 different notes. If I click on each of these, you'll see the chords down here on the output keyboard for each one of those trigger notes. So what I've done is I've recorded in a MIDI region here that's just playing individual notes, and each of those individual notes are triggering full chords in the chord trigger. Okay, so to start from scratch, I've just got a software instrument track here with the electric piano on it, nothing special. And then I'm going to load up the chord trigger on the MIDI FX plugin slot. I'll use the electric piano just to cover the basics, and then I'll show you how you can set up a custom chord set and use it in a practical musical example. And I'll save that project and make it available as a free download below. Okay, so the chord trigger has 2 main modes, single and multi. Single mode applies the same chord type to every single note on your MIDI controller or each of the trigger keys. So if I play A3 here, you can see that the notes are A, C, E, G. That's an A minor 7 chord. If I go down to C here, the notes are C, E flat, G, B flat. That's a C minor 7 chord. Now you can either click the trigger keys or you can arm the track and play them on your MIDI controller. Regardless of which key I play, each chord that chord trigger spits out is a minor 7 chord. So all of the chords are minor 7 chords. This is the default setting. Additionally, you can set the range of the trigger keys if you like. So maybe I want to do something like this, where I want notes from C3 and down to trigger chords, and then notes above C3 will not be affected by chord trigger and will just play regular notes. So you can use it that way if you like. I'm just going to go ahead and put those trigger keys all the way out again. And you can also change the quality of the chords in single mode if you like. So while in single mode, just click the Learn button and then click on any of the trigger keys. It doesn't really matter which one. It'll show you the current chord. And what you can do is click on a note on the bottom keyboard to remove it, and then click on another key to add a note. So that's a C7. That's a C major 7. And maybe I'll add a bottom note. So when I turn off Learn mode, now every single note on the keyboard is going to have a major 7 chord with that low octave. Now, if you want to clear all of the chords and start from scratch, you can click the clear button while in single mode. However, the real benefit of using Chord Trigger, in my opinion, is using multi-mode. It's way more powerful than using single mode. Now, there are some presets up here in multi-mode that can be fairly helpful. So there's guitar voicings. So for example, I'll choose the guitar open chords. Now, if you think those notes are a bit too low, what you can do is you can use the chord transposition here, and this will transpose the output by any number of semitones. So right now it's been transposed down by 12 semitones, which is 1 full octave. So I'll set this to 0, and now everything will go up an octave. Let's choose another preset. Let's try out some of these keyboard voicings. Let's try out the jazz ballad right hand. And the great thing about this is the trigger keys are a limited range, so you could use notes higher than C5 for melody, and you could use notes lower than C3 for bass. Let's try out one more preset. Let's go to multi, keyboard voicings. This time I'll use the pop right hand. These voicings are going to be a lot simpler than the jazz voicings. The tricky thing about these presets is they're all built in C major or A minor. Now I'm saying C major and A minor because these are both keys that are all white keys. So they're relative keys. So A minor is the relative minor key of C major and vice versa. So let's say that I want to use a chord progression like this. Something like that. But let's say we want to transpose this to a key other than A minor. What you can do is use the chord transpose here. And for example, if I wanted to go from the key of A minor down to F sharp minor, you would just count down or up to transpose to the key you're trying to move to. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So to go from A minor down to F sharp minor, I need to transpose this down by 3 semitones. So the input notes are in A minor, but the output notes are all in F sharp minor. So that's a workaround to transpose any of these presets to other keys. Now, if you're building your own chord set, you can build it in any key you like. So it's not always necessary to even use the chord transpose if you build your own chord set. So let me show you how to do that next. If you click clear, in multi-mode, this can only be used to delete individual chords. So after you click clear, you can click on a note to clear that chord. If you want to clear all of the chords in multi-mode, you can hold Option and click on the clear button. And when you hold Option, this turns into a clear all button. Then I'll Option click on the chord transpose, and now I'm back to a blank setting. So the true power of this plugin is the ability to program in your own chords. So while I'm in multi-mode, I'm going to turn on learn mode, and then just simply click on a note in the trigger keys. And then I can type in the note down here in the bottom keyboard. So maybe I'll start on some low octave A's. Maybe a 5th on E, another A, C. Let's add a 7th on G. So what I have here is just a big A minor 7 chord. And when I turn off learn mode, I can now trigger that whole chord with the note A3, either with my mouse or on my keyboard. To learn another chord, it's as simple as clicking the learn button. This time, let's go down to E, and I'll build out a big E chord. So E, E, let's do a 5th, root, 3rd, and a 7th. And you know what, let's drop that down an octave. There we go. So now I have A minor 7, and E minor 7. Let's do another chord. I'll click on F. I'll start with F. Another low F. Let's add a 7th in here. And then the triad, F, A, C. So I like to change up the spelling of some of the chords just to get some interesting voice leading. Otherwise, you end up with just these like parallel harmonies between the chords. Another thing you can do with learn mode is you can actually play in the chord on your MIDI controller. So for example, if I wanted to build another chord here on G3, you simply select that note and then play in the chord on your MIDI controller. So now I can turn off learn mode. And when I click on G here, you can see it triggers that G7 chord, G, B, D, F. Now let's say I wanted to customize that further. I could just turn on learn mode, select the trigger key, and add in some new notes. So I've got G, G, B, D. Let's add in an E here and another high B. One thing I'm doing here is I'm making sure that each of my chords have 6 notes. If you're just using this for the chords, you can make each chord as many notes as you want. But one of the things I'm going to show you in just a bit is how you can run the chord trigger through an additional arpeggiator and create some cool arpeggiated sequences with a single note. So in order to use the arpeggiator effectively, I want to make sure that each chord has the same number of notes. But it's not a requirement if you're just using this as a chord entry method. Now, one last thing you can do in Chord Trigger is you can click here, and there's a secret little menu down here, and it says Learn Remote. What this does is it allows you to use a note on your keyboard to toggle learn mode on and off. Now, remember that note number 60 is middle C. So right now, C3 is going to turn learn mode on and off. So I just press it to turn it on, press it again to turn it off. But let's say I want to go an octave lower than middle C. What you do is you just take 60 minus 12, and you get 48. So I'll type in 48. So now C2 is going to be the note that I can press to turn learn mode on and off. So what's cool about this is, let's say I want to add another chord. I can press C2 to turn learn mode on, play a note on my MIDI controller. I'll play C3. That creates a trigger key. And then what I can do is play in the chord that I want to assign to that trigger key. So I played in a C major 7, and then I can just simply press C2 again to toggle learn mode off. The thing that's tricky about this is you don't want to use a learn remote note that you might have as part of your chord. So for example, if I wanted to customize this chord again, like maybe I want to add C2 here, it's not going to let me do that because C2 is what triggers the learn remote on and off. So I'm going to go ahead and just turn this off, and then I'll go ahead and just customize this chord a bit. I'll add a low octave and one more low octave. So this learn remote feature, if you're going to use it, you want to maybe reserve it for notes that are really low on your keyboard, and you'd probably want to have a full-size MIDI controller for this. But I can totally see how this would be super helpful in a live situation where you just need to quickly punch in a few chords without having to use your mouse or use your trackpad on your laptop. Now, I can save this as a preset. If this is a set of chords that I like to use a lot, I can simply come up to here, click Save As, and then just give the preset a name. So I'll just call this A minor custom voicings. And I can recall this preset at any time. Now, when using Chord Trigger inside of your project, there's two different approaches here. You can simply just arm the track for recording, hit R to record, and play in the notes, and what'll get recorded are just individual notes, and then you'll just let the chord trigger do all of the work. But if you want the chords to be inputted into the MIDI region, what you can do is you can use the record MIDI to track feature. And what this will do is it'll actually record the chords into the region rather than individual notes. For my application, I'm going to go ahead and just play in the individual notes. And so the cool thing about doing things this way, where you're just recording in one note, is you can then edit those notes. You can quantize those notes, and you're having to deal with fewer notes than full chords. So I'll just go ahead and quantize all of this to quarter notes. I'll set all the velocities to the same value just by holding Option while I drag the velocity slider. And I can also use my Shift backslash and backslash shortcuts to get rid of any overlapping notes and also to get rid of any gaps between the chords. I'll go ahead and trim that note up, trim up the region here, and then just hit Command R to repeat that. Let's see what this sounds like with this beat. Now, because I'm just playing single root notes, I can use this as the foundation for a new bass line. So I'm going to duplicate this down to my bass track here, which is just an Alchemy instrument called 1970s modular synth bass. This is already an arpeggiated pattern that's got some rhythm to it. So what I'll do is I'll just drop this down a couple of octaves. Now let's do something more interesting with the chord track here. Instead of the electric piano, I'm going to load up Alchemy, and the preset I'm looking for is called Big Anthem Arp. So this is a setting within Alchemy that already has built-in arpeggiation, already has a built-in sequence there. So what's happening here is the MIDI recording just has single notes. Each one of those single notes are going to the chord trigger, which is transforming them into 6-note chords. Then those 6-note chords are going into Alchemy and being arpeggiated by Alchemy's arpeggiator. Now, you might recall from a previous video that MIDI FX plugins can actually be stacked. So if you don't like the arpeggiator inside of any particular instrument, you can actually add the arpeggiator on the MIDI effects chain as well. So let me choose a different preset here, and I'm going to select this one, 70s analog synth lead. But what I can do in addition to that is I can add the arpeggiator after the chord trigger, just like I was talking about, and I can come up with a different pattern here. So maybe I'll use a 16th note, I'll use up and down, I'll use variation 2. So this is one of my favorite ways to use Chord Trigger, is in conjunction with the arpeggiator, because you can take one single note on input, transform it into a chord, bring it into the arpeggiator, and then the arpeggiator will arpeggiate each of those chords. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. As always, thank you so much for the support, and thanks for watching.